It's NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Wallace Foundation, an independent, nonpartisan research foundation collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at wallacefoundation.org. This is NPR.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Tennessee State Parks. With a variety of getaway accommodations, including cabins and lodges, guests can experience the great outdoors without giving up modern amenities. Learn more at tnstateparks.com.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. Well, we're back. Whether you're in Davidson County, a neighboring county, or beyond, Clarksville to Dixon to Cookeville and Murfreesboro, what happens in Nashville might affect your world, and that's why we bring Mayor Freddie O'Connell on each month to question him about some of the big issues and take your questions, questions by phone about what you're seeing in your city, issues big and small. The number to join us is 615-760-2000. What would you like to see from the city in the new year? What concerns you? What excites you? What do you want to know more about? Mayor O'Connell is here, back from, in really just a quick turnaround, 3 weeks. So welcome back to This is Nashville.
Blake, glad to be back. I'm a little disappointed to see that I'm the only one who brought my French horn with me today. So.
And if you don't get that joke, it's because you didn't hear the last time the mayor was here when we had 8 French horns, plus a conductor, plus 3 people in Muppet attire. It was an interesting show. Will it be repeated? It might not be. At least not with the mayor. I don't know that he'll come back.
You all can do whatever you want with your own time.
Well, thank you for coming back. And the mayor, the number to catch the mayor here today is 615-760-2000. You can also leave a question for us in the chat at the video stream that's coming directly from here in the studio. Hello. That's at youtube.com/@WPLN. Well, I'll get in the first question, I guess, since I'm hosting here. So much
host privilege.
Yeah, it's host privilege. But we'll start with the East Bank. So much is happening. T-Pac's moving there. The new Nissan Stadium's fully kind of taken its shape, topped out. Oracle put out plans for its huge campus that, now have drawings of. And, today we got a few details in Axios about the city starting to buy up land for East Bank Boulevard. First, maybe this East Bank Boulevard, because I know it was kind of a sticking point. In your mind, is this boulevard that'll kind of be the main thoroughfare through there, is this primarily for driving or is it more of a pedestrian thing so folks can walk around the East Bank?
Well, I'd say yes, and our outlook on this, and one of the reasons we, kind of hit a little bit of a reset toward the end of the year is the East Bank Boulevard is actually a key choose how you move corridor. And so we've engaged Sabrina Sussman who's our chief program officer for Choose How You Move, our transit improvement program that voters approved in November of 2024, which is now up and running, and exciting announcements even today about the progress we've made with that program. But we wanted her to review that, and so transit is going to be one of the key priorities for that corridor, and that was by design from the program. And it's been discussed in many ways from the original days of Imagine East Bank up through development of Choose How You Move. But it'll also have a couple touch points with some key TDOT nodes where it actually requires some significant changes to James Robertson Parkway and probably a connection into East Nashville from where it starts to get up closer to River North and the Oracle campus, but lots of design considerations there.
So when you say that this East Bank Boulevard will be a key corridor for Choose How You Move, which is this, our transit funding that passed by Davidson County voters, you're saying that it will be connected to those main corridors that will be coming in there, like I guess down Dickerson, down Gallatin, that kind of thing?
That's exactly right. So if you look at the combination of Connect Downtown and Choose How You Move, Connect Downtown sort of being a master plan for how people move around downtown, we've imagined that you'd have a south of Broadway community transit center that also starts to connect you up through Roselle Parks Boulevard and James Robertson to the existing transfer facility, WeGo Central, and then continue onward across the river to an East Bank Community Transit Center. So we'd have sort of 3 urban community transit centers all linked up by corridors that are ideally designed to be easily used by transit vehicles.
Since it sort of has to do with getting around down there, I know there have been some concerns that these years of construction are going to even limit access to stuff like the pedestrian bridge there, the Siegenthaler Bridge, maybe Cumberland Park there. Can listeners expect to have access through this extended building period?
That is a key priority of ours. We've made that clear to every stakeholder on the East Bank, from the Titans to the Fallon Company to TPAC, that we're expecting construction schedules to and infrastructure design to accommodate ongoing continuous access to the Siegenthaler pedestrian bridge in particular. Meanwhile, on the ground, one of the first things you're going to see in terms of infrastructure improvements is, I hope, some of the best overall street designs that we've had in the city to date that, again, to your point, accommodate pedestrians, accommodate cyclists, and then as we get to the East Bank Boulevard, add transit users to that mix as well.
Yeah. Maybe last thing on this, unless listeners have questions as they call in. Remind us where the money, at least for the city's part of this, comes from to redevelop the East Bank, because, man, there's so much happening.
There is. In the near term, Metro is one of the most significant investors here, but I'll say, as we kind of came into office with a pre-existing stadium deal that we've been obligated to honor. The Fallon Company came in as a major development group. We know that anybody doing redevelopment there, as we see around the city, particularly in more urban areas, is going to participate in infrastructure funding. But there is so much infrastructure over there that private sector commitment, the state commitment, isn't going to cover it all. Metro will be a contributing factor. Eventually, and one of the reasons we created the East Bank Development Authority is that once the stadium is up and running and open and multiple sites over there producing revenue, they'll start to be a little more self-sufficient, and Metro won't be the primary engine of infrastructure.
Is that development authority, are you saying there's special revenue that goes to that development authority through the property there?
That's by design, yes. Yeah. And so right now there's sort of the initial development area where Fallon is active and where we're expecting the TPAC site to be. But yeah, over time, that authority kind of, and we've seen similar models. It's like the Convention Center Authority sort of being in charge of construction of the footprint of the convention center.
Yeah, and they get to keep some of the. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but they get to keep some of the money developed.
That's right. And there's a lot of complexity to these arrangements. You probably remember from the discussion of the Titans deal, there is this whole. The state has invested some money. There is a hotel tax included in funding it. So we've got a variety of different pieces of revenue, but Metro is also the largest property owner in that central waterfront footprint.
Yeah,
and so
we'll continue to be,
and we'll work on the redevelopment process as we go.
But at the moment, would it be fair if listeners are seeing that and saying this is taking away from fill in the blank their issue in the city? That would be true at this moment, even though the future is supposed to be funded, kind of self-funded through the Development Authority?
It's hard to put it that way, partly because the math spreads out across more years than one mayoral administration.
Yep.
We're in the very near term. We've worked very hard to ensure that our overall capital program supports the entire city and anticipates that down the road we will be less committed to that obligation. But the same is true when we bought the Global Mall site. There is an infrastructure overhead to even having that land at our disposal. We have multiple footprints within Metro right now that I would say have a carrying cost to them, and we're trying to activate them and make sure they're put to good use for the city. And sometimes we have really good success. But I think over the past year, even just toward the end of the year, we opened a new precinct in Southeast Nashville that had been long awaited by that community. We opened 3 different elementary schools to kick off the new year. I think you all know just not that long ago, we opened the Rip Patton North Nashville Community Transit Center, the second in the family, just before Choose How You Move got off the ground. And it's great because it connects right to here where the
Yes.
WPLN studio is.
Yeah, just
now.
over on Clarksville Pike. I'm Blake Farmer. This is Nashville with Mayor Freddie O'Connell, and also taking questions live on air at 615-760-2000. Do you have desires for the East Bank that the mayor should hear? Well, you've got his ear right now. So let's go ahead and go to the phones. Let's go first to Susan in Nashville. You're on with Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I want to say I love the Nashville library system, and especially the librarians. But the website for the library has had this message: the downtown library will be closed until independent safety verification experts can conduct third policy reviews.
Hey, Susan, you're breaking up just a little bit. I know that you're asking about the reopening of the library. Anything else more specific, just because you're breaking up a little bit?
Yes, I'm wondering if he has had any reports from this third-party reviewers that are supposedly having to verify the safety process, if they've given him any idea of any kind of timeline.
Yeah. So on the time, just to repeat for other listeners who don't have headphones on, Susan's asking about timeline for reopening the library, which closed, because of this explosion in the parking garage overnight in, I believe it was early to mid-June, and we're now in the middle of January. So, Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, Susan, I'll tell you, this is one of the most frustrating episodes of, just sort of an extraordinary accident and event that did result in the closure of not just the library, but the attached garage. And so two separate things are happening that people should know about. One is the structural integrity of the garage is being assessed. That is an NDOT facility. They are kind of supervising the assessment of that part. And then the library is doing their own assessment of the interior of the library. And I will tell you, I'm not the only one who's frustrated about some of what feel like delays here, but Terry Luke, the director of libraries, and I think the library board, and I would say also the National Public Library Foundation board, everybody is disappointed that this process can't move faster. But what has happened is, as they've gone in, as they've had, kind of safety and assessment teams inside the building, the further they've gone in, the more they've discovered areas where there's been smoke damage or other things. I think the best news to date is that the overall facility, the overall materials, the collection of the library, the assets there are in overall good shape. But I know Director Luke does not want to get out in front and say, we will absolutely definitively be open on this date without knowing that there's kind of been approval. So I will say she is certainly not allowing for any additional delay, but the reality is when they get into elevator shafts and HVAC and the auditorium and places that are more in the recesses, not even always open to the public, they do have to make sure for their own employees and then ultimately for patron safety that those things are taken account of. So it is a very disappointing place to be, but I will say she and her team, our team, we are working to get the library back open as soon as we possibly can and do so safely.
From the discussion that I heard at I think it was the library board meeting a few weeks ago, it almost sounded like, well, this has now come down to the safety of the garage itself. Do you really? I mean, it almost made it sound like, well, we might have to tear down the whole garage. Like, can you not just rip the Band-Aid off and go do that?
When I got my most recent update from NDOT, it sounded like they were still looking at the fork in the road to say, could we preserve maybe the first 2-3 floors of the garage, but recognize that the top stories may have to be completely demolished and rebuilt. I'm still optimistic that we can get there, because one of the things is you open the library without the garage, which is, I think, still the likeliest outcome in the near future. You've still got to work on everything from parking and safety and access to the library. And so we're looking at partners. I know Terry and the library team are looking at that. If we can get any part of what might still be have structural integrity for the attached garage, much better to be able to open that in short order and work through any of the reconstruction process with some spaces still available.
I've just seen some frustration from people. I wish I could say precisely where, but it was kind of saying, well, what if this was a revenue-generating piece of the city? Let's say Bridgestone Arena. It seems like people would have figured this out by now rather than letting it go, dormant for 7 months.
So here's what I'll share with you in regard to that. Just a couple weeks ago, almost at the 5-year anniversary of the Christmas Day bombing, Second Avenue's infrastructure is finally back open from top to bottom, from Broadway to Union. That includes new sidewalks and streetscape. That includes new under-the-ground infrastructure. But I'll tell you, you can go and look at Second Avenue with privately owned, otherwise revenue-producing facilities, and some of them still have not even begun a reconstruction effort. And that's 5 years later. We're moving very quickly here, and safety, I'm not ever going to fault library administration for keeping a focus on safety.
Well, thank you for the call, Susan. We're going to get to Joseph and Suzanne when we get back, but we need to take a quick break. When we come back, more of your calls. The number 615-760-2000. We'll also talk a bit about racing at the Fairgrounds and a disconnect between crime stats and how safe we feel in Nashville. Mayor Freddie O'Connell will stay with us. You should too. This is Nashville.
We want Freddie for a leader. Stay to raise your champagne glass. We want Freddie for a leader. Freddie is a man of class. We want Freddie for a leader.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This Is Nashville, engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com. And The Higgins Firm, assisting clients with nursing home neglect and serious personal injury cases. Online at thehigginsfirm.com. And Wildwood Resort and Marina on Cordell Hall Lake, offering corporate and nonprofit retreats, getaways, and celebrations. 1 hour east of Nashville, year-round. More at visitwildwood.com.
If you're old enough, you'll remember the video rental shop. They were everywhere. In France, a handful of them are still open, VHS tapes included, and they're offering more than just nostalgia.
It's like a library, and it's very exciting to come in and try to make a decision. And so much more curated than Netflix.
Hear that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 2 on 90.3 WPLN News.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. We've got Mayor Freddie O'Connell with us for another 15 minutes or so get your questions in now. Join us live on air, 615-760-2000. You can also drop a question or comment in the chat of our video stream, and magically it will appear on the screen in front of me at youtube.com/@WPLN. Let's go straight to the phones. Joseph in South Nashville, you've been waiting patiently, and you're on the air with Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Go ahead.
Hello, Mayor O'Connell.
Hey, Joseph.
I live in South Nashville. I've been in Nashville for over 60 years. By trade, I'm a landscaper and groundskeeper and gardener, and you could probably call me an environmentalist. I've noticed the last 2 summers, starting in 2024, and it seemed more extensive in 2025, I saw what looked like spraying along right-of-ways throughout the city around drainage ditches, utility poles, stop signs, things like this, possibly something like Roundup, probably to control vegetation. And I have not seen it before 2024. Can you tell me, is Public Works doing this? I understand we have a lot of lush vegetation in this region, and it has to be controlled in some way. Can you tell me anything about that?
That's a good question. I know years ago, the Metro Public Health Department had a mosquito spray program. I'm less familiar with this. Do you have, I'll just ask, because I know we have a lot of requests come in around, for instance, potholes and roadway maintenance where there is a meaningful distinction between local roads and state roads. Is this all on what you're pretty sure are local roads, or is this closer to the interstate and possibly some state routes? Because we may have to explore whether this is either a TDOT or TDEC function from a state level.
Okay, I have actually seen a little bit of this along I-65, but in the city, I've seen a lot of it. In fact, in Woodbine, I've seen places, and it would be around like drainage areas, and it seemed, especially initially anyway, places that maybe were neglected, where somebody had let the vegetation grow up. And so it's like, well, you don't want vegetation growing up utility poles. But in 2025, along Trousdale, for example, they're commercial properties, and they seem like they're pretty well maintained, and yet there were long swaths near the street where it looked like someone had very neatly but very extensively applied herbicide.
Huh.
But I saw this in a number of places throughout South Nashville. In 2024, I saw it more in my part of town, and I thought, well, we're maybe a little poorer here, and we're not like Belmead, where most people have their place professionally maintained.
Yeah.
But in 2025, I can give you an example. The Belmead Post Office along Harding Road, there's a big guardrail across the front, and all along there, it was sprayed. And I wanted to say that I understand the need to control vegetation, and I understand their economic concerns, but there's no substitute, in my opinion, it may never be, for skillful manual labor. And I would like to have crews with weed eaters and hedge shears and blowers go around and groom areas and not just kill the vegetation.
Got it.
Joseph, we appreciate the call. Thanks for the detail on that, too. Mayor, do you does the city have a policy on whether to use Roundup? I'd be surprised if Public Works didn't use Roundup.
We'll go check on that. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like, especially if it's around drainage areas, I want to maybe check in with NDOT and Metro Water just to see what we're going. But Blake, as we frequently do after these episodes, we'll follow up and share back with you and your listeners.
Love that. Well, thank you, Joseph. Let's go to another call. We've got Suzanne in Antioch. You're on with Mayor O'Connell. Go ahead.
Well, hello. Thank you for taking my call. I've voted for the mayor, and I support him. We agree on most issues. On a few issues, we may disagree, but I concede he has a point, and I hope, for all our sakes, he's right and I'm wrong.
He's smiling, just so you know.
There's one issue where I feel strongly that you are wrong, and that is that the bike paths in outlying areas, there are many areas that I think it makes a lot of sense. They're being used, and they're worth the headache. But I happen to live in Antioch, and Bell Road from Antioch all the way to I-40 has two wide bicycle paths on both sides of the road, and it is very, very dangerous. There's lots of deer crossings, and 3 times before the bicycle poles were put in, I actually had to emerge. When a deer jumped in front of my car or someone else's car, I had to quickly move the veer to the right or left. And now you cannot do that. And if an emergency vehicle needs to go by, and I, by law, need to pull over, I cannot. And if you encounter a bad driver coming the other way who starts to veer into the center lane, the center dotted line, there's nowhere for you to go. I'm afraid people are going to die. So it's not just that I find it unsightly on this beautiful country road, but it's also very unsafe. And I just don't see why there needs to be 2 wide bicycle paths. And since they've been put up, I've seen one bicyclist on it, and he was actually walking his bike for some reason. But it's a big headache, a lot of risks for very little reward.
Well, Suzanne, thanks for the call. And I'll say for any cyclist who's riding in that protected area, I got to go see it for myself a few months ago. I know they consider it a life-saving measure. And I'll tell you, I've heard from many, many people who would like to have more safe access routes for cycling, specifically within and moving around and beyond Antioch. And so this is one of those things where what you said up front, I think, is the most true part of it, which is we're trying to create as much as we can, a connected network. But I'll tell you, I have heard from and seen increases in not just cycling, but other forms of micromobility where we've been able to extend that network. And I think, we have to deal with roadway constraints all over the city. And so we're trying to do it in ways that impact motorists the least, but we're also trying to improve roadway safety for motorists as much as possible. And I know in some cases that means the road design might change or the conditions of driving might change. But I come back to one of the most popular programs that exists in the city right now is the traffic calming measure. And so we do want to see motorists be safe when they're on the road. And you obviously have some moments like you mentioned, deer crossings or emergency vehicles, but we're trying to keep track of all those things and ensure that not only are we driving down crashes in general, but specifically trying to drive down pedestrian and cyclist fatalities. So we're going to try to deliver infrastructure as safe as we possibly can and acknowledge where there are constraints, but we need to keep the feedback in mind too. And I can assure you we'll be looking at Bell Road and other instances where we've changed design to kind of incorporate this feedback where necessary. But I think that's one of the things too. We wouldn't want to have a condition on the roadway where people would be expected to have to swerve. And so we're looking at other mitigating factors there as well. But I think it's kind of like my street right now today. Like, once people have generally left for work, you're not going to see maybe but one or two cars throughout the day near where I live. But the fact that the road exists there is still important. And so for cyclists who are able to use it, even if you're not seeing them, it's the same thing that we've seen where you can look at transit statistics for WeGo and realize that, yes, there are hundreds of thousands of people every month taking transit trips, even if you don't see each individual one of them as you're out driving.
That is true, but why have two very wide bicycle paths on the same two-lane road?
Yeah, I think that's where we're trying to make sure we tweak our designs and get it right. Sometimes you do get a both bidirectional cycle track, and you just look at the overall roadway design. So happy to check with NDOT and follow up on design details and how their implementation process worked. But I want to bring that feedback back.
Do you all watch how much traffic is on bike lanes? Like if very few people over the course of years are using a certain bike lane for one reason or another, would you take it out?
We tend to look at bike ped statistics to try to add things where they are. We've done bike and ped counts through the years, and we'll continue to do that. But I think it's the same thing, right? I mean, it's very unusual to rip out a roadway just because it gets less usage by motorists. And so I think what we're trying to do is deliver infrastructure that's across the board as safe as it can be.
Suzanne, really appreciate the call.
Thanks for the feedback.
If you'd like to join us on air, your time is running short, but the number is 615-760-2000. We'll go to Marquis in Madison. Marquis, you're on with Mayor O'Connell. Go ahead. Marquis, you're on with Mayor O'Connell. If you're still there, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Keith. Are you hearing me?
Oh, well, I just have it wrong on my. No wonder you didn't answer, because it's Keith. Keith in Madison. Go ahead.
That's right. I like to say that I too voted for the mayor, and I think he's doing a good job. I'm just calling to get an overall. I go downtown a couple of times a month, and I live in Madison. I used to work in East Nashville, and I understand there's a lot of gentrification, loads of money downtown, and I just want to. I could go online and probably get an answer to this, but I just want him to summarize, this money, this development, all this development, it does more than trickle out to Madison and Donaldson and Hermitage, doesn't it?
Oh,
anyway, I just wanted to...
In a huge way. And Keith, I'll share with you from having represented District 19, it's extraordinary how much overall revenue we generate between both property taxes and activity taxes coming into downtown, and that's always been the goal. And I appreciated and respected Mayor Cooper's outlook on this when he was in office, that we do want to reinvest as much of that revenue as possible. So we've created a unique payment in lieu of taxes for the convention center that makes sure we get money there. Some of it, too, we do know that there are, hundreds of thousands of people downtown sometimes on weekends. So we do need to make sure that we have appropriate safety resources and other resources there specifically for downtown. But we have been able to to where kind of Blake was earlier in the conversation, reinvest a lot of those things in terms of capital dollars going out to build facilities or buy vehicles that serve the rest of the county, to make sure that our operating budget supports personnel to serve the entire county. So it's an advantage to have a very successful, well-used downtown, and so it has allowed the overall city to succeed as it has grown.
I think Keith's probably interested in his backyard in Madison. Any sort of investments coming that way that he can look out for?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's happened there has been the completion of Madison Station Boulevard, and then we've just recently gotten right. So that facility there, we know the mat is connected right up to the Madison Library. We've got that Rivergate Mall. We had a tax increment financing deal there. We also had a similar one for Madison that I hope will improve Madison Station. And as that comes together, we've got great plans for a park out there. So lots happening specifically in the Madison area right now.
Well, thanks a lot for the call, Keith, and please call in again, and we'll get you on. Let's go to one more, although she may be in her car, so we'll see how this goes. Gracie in Donaldson, you're on the mayor with, appropriately, a roadway question. Go ahead.
Hi, Blake and Freddie. So I'm a Nashville native, lived here my whole life, and I live in Donaldson, and when I'm commuting into town, the 440-24 split is a consistent thorn in my side, and I'm just very curious to ask Mayor McConnell if there are any future plans to alleviate some of that bottleneck that happens at that 440-24 split. I know a lot of people commute that way, and it just gets so backed up it can easily add 10, 15, 20 minutes to your commute if you are not someone that weaves in and out of traffic to get where you're trying to go.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Gracie, and I hope that you and other motorists are driving safely even when you encounter the congestion. So let me give you kind of a two-part answer here. One, when we drafted Choose How You Move, it as an overall transportation program for the entire city that would allow us to not just improve transit service, but also do infrastructure and service delivery, meaning smarter traffic signals, more sidewalks, frankly, more options for people that I hope will relieve congestion in multiple places over time. For instance, we just did an end-to-end upgrade of traffic signals up and down Lebanon Pike. Those things really help at the margins for people that are coming off the interstate and may help with bottlenecks coming on. The hard part is the interstates themselves are, a combination of federal and state programs. And so one of the things that I know the state has been working diligently on is a choice lanes model for the I-24 corridor, which I think they are expecting to have a lot of impact on potential congestion for that entire corridor. That should help potentially with that bottleneck. It'll help us even more because they've already warranted in advance that our Choose How You Move program will have access to those choice lanes if and when they come online. So I would say keep paying attention to where TDOT and the state are in successful delivery of that overall choice lanes program, but then also do keep paying attention to the progress we're making on Choose How You Move, because I think it will help at the margins, removing bottlenecks as people either get onto or come off some of those either interstates or other big highways or parkways like Ellington and Briley.
Well, Gracie, good luck out there in the traffic. We're right there with you, sitting and beating the steering wheel. Mayor, before you go, a couple of, I wouldn't call them lightning round questions because they're certainly complicated. But one is racing at the fairgrounds, which has come back up certainly front and center lately. There's you had the local Liuna Labor Union launching this campaign to keep the speedway at the Nashville Fairgrounds. You've got this other effort to revise the Metro Charter to, make it where you could get rid of racing at the fairgrounds. Has your position changed on this? I mean, are you in one camp or the other?
I mean, Blake, I've tried to be pretty consistent on this. We do right now today have a chartered obligation to maintain the speedway, and we're looking for the best possible option to do that. If something changes, that'd be fine. I will say I think I'm a little skeptical of a referendum that, would give you clearance to knock down the Expo Center to build affordable housing. I don't think that's what Nashvillians are looking for. Even if it allowed them to clear the speedway, I think the fairgrounds is a unique part of Nashville. That's something that multiple generations of Nashvillians have enjoyed. I don't generally think that removing public assets and amenities, just based on there are multiple points of community preference. So I'm looking at it. We've talked to the team. We'll continue to talk to the team. We've talked to Speedway enthusiasts. We'll continue to do that. We've talked to multiple other people that have brought creative ideas to the table, and we'll continue to do that until we feel like we've got the right proposal in front of us.
All right. Crime is down pretty much across the board for 2025. And it wasn't just homicides, which is what people often are looking at. Robberies and burglaries down to a level not seen in 50 years. The Nashville Banner has a good story on it out this morning. And yet you have the number of people who say they feel safe in the city actually going down. And more than half said that they feel crime is going up in Nashville. Where's this disconnect?
I think one of the things, there's no question that there has been, in some cases, a concerted narrative in the media to portray every day as a day where, crime is out of control. Some of this is national media, some of this is local media. And it's important to talk about what's reality. Even within what's reality, I can tell you, being a victim of crime is an incredible sense of violation that you feel there. And so we want to have fewer victims of crime of any kind every single year. It is, in many ways, a relief to see historic lows in crime, specifically violent crime. The 30% reduction in homicides is a big deal for Nashvillians. The overall reduction in gun violence, the decades low in burglaries, the decades low in robberies. These are big, important moments for the city, and huge credit to Chief Drake and the Metro Nashville Police Department. We've also tried to put a lot of resources out there that let them be more nimble and be more directly responding to crime. So you probably followed this, the expansion of programs like REACH and Partners in Care that send mental health professionals to places where people might be in crisis, not in progress of committing a crime. And then our own Office of Youth Safety in the Mayor's Office developed as a direct result of how young people came and told the Metro Council, and Metro Council worked with our office to set up an Office of Youth Safety now led by Phyllis Hildreth. So across what the Metro Nashville Police Department is doing, across what the Metro Public Health Department is doing, across what our Office of Youth Safety is doing, and generally trying to put pressure on the overall idea of safety and drive down everything from crime to crashes. We want the city to be as safe as it possibly can be. And I do hope that people will pay attention to the actual crime statistics, even as they're kind of, looking at day-to-day drumbeat coverage of when one or another type of crime might occur in the city. We would like to see another reduction in homicides this year. We're going to continue to stay focused on the safety of the city as a whole. Yeah.
And last thing, you told the Nashville Banner you were probably running again for your job as mayor, second term, but that I guess maybe your daughters maybe have some real concerns about safety, and you're taking that concern seriously. Are you really dealing with credible threats, and how do you balance that with kind of your, their anxiety over your professional life?
Yeah, I think that's a real thing that anybody in public life has to deal with. You've probably seen more recently General Sessions judges calling for an increase in security. Yeah. The targeting of political and public figures has taken on sort of a renewed focus with multiple either assassinations or assassination attempts. That's something you have to be credible about. It's why, again, I think we take a broad look at safety in general and try to assess and detect threats to public safety of multiple different forms. But I do think that anybody who's ever run for office that it has either a significant other or a family, the first and most important support you get is from the people that are your most important constituents. And so paying attention to that is critically important. And then beyond that, the nice part is knowing that we can see in things that we're working on that the people that we've had support us in that first year come back and support the overall agenda with Choose How You Move. The progress we've made on that in the year since gives us a lot of momentum on the things that we're working on. And I think projects like the East Bank, projects like Choose How You Move, projects like the Unified Housing Strategy, and these all being multi-year projects, really, there's so much optimism I have for what's possible in the years ahead.
So if people are listening thinking, wait, is he going to run again or not going to run again? Your plan is to run again?
That's the plan, yeah.
Okay. Well, coming up next, we're talking about what Where Wednesday, as in what are you doing this week? And we're also asking you, our listeners, to share upcoming events live on air. And Mayor, I understand you're at this Come Together Music Project partnership with TEDx Nashville, who Shaka Mitchell founded. He was on the show talking about it actually a bit ago. It's at Analog, which is at the Hutton Hotel this evening. You have 5 questions maybe, and every answer has to be a song. Do you have a song that could bring Nashville together?
Oh, I don't know that there's one single song that could do that, Blake, but I look forward to the conversation this evening. And I think it's such a great exercise that puts ideas of community, and even there's one sort of about loss and missing people. But the idea of wrapping those concepts around music is just a great Music City idea. I will share with your listeners, don't sleep on our weekly events calendar, because we always are finding really, really fun and interesting things to do at our parks, our libraries, elsewhere in the community that are almost always completely free, may have some kind of nominal registration cost, but look at our events calendar.
All right, the mayor's events calendar, and the mayor will be back so long as we can get him next month. So stay tuned for that. Mayor O'Connell, thanks for being with us.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to come back, and What Where Wednesday host Marquis Munson will be my studio buddy as we also take your calls. What's going on in Middle Tennessee this week, maybe next, that you want other listeners to know about? 615-760-2000. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, helping donors make more possible through the power of community giving. More at cfmt.org. And Calideck Amplification, based in Nashville and makers of the 4148 Overdrive pedal. Online at caladec.com.
I'm Holly Kernan, president of Nashville Public Radio, thanking Christ Church Cathedral, Zeitlin Sotheby's International Realty, and Nashville Opera. Learn how your business can become a supporter at sponsornashvillepublicradio.org.
Sometimes the news raises as many questions as it answers. How did things get this way? Why do we do that here? Has this kind of thing happened before? And you know what? I'm not one to let those questions go unanswered. I'm Nina Cardona, and every weekday I share the latest local news and dig into history to uncover the backstory. It's all on the Nash Villager podcast, and you can listen at WPLN.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. If your email inbox is anything like mine, and I hope that it's not, but you've got a bunch of unread messages about things going on in Middle Tennessee, and you really would love to know about them because you're part of this community, and you want to get to know your neighbors and enjoy the arts, the culture, the sports, the fill in the blank that we have to offer, but maybe you don't know where to start. So that's why WPLN brings you What Where Wednesday. And we're joined by host Marquis Munson, and we know where he'll be tonight, and that is at the Alabama-Vanderbilt game.
Look, this is, I forgot that this is on camera, so yes, I am currently wearing all of my Alabama gear because I am going to the Alabama versus Vandy basketball. And look, Vandy's good this year, and I'm very happy for it. So, but I have to represent my alma mater, so yeah.
Well, if you need to see, his decked out in Alabama gear.
I don't think you want people to tune out of since I'm wearing Alabama, so.
Well, it's youtube.com/@WPLN if you want to watch is what I'm saying. All right, so we're going to take some calls in just a moment about events that are going on. The number is 615-760-2000. But What Where Wednesday is something you host that folks who listen to WPLN. You're from WNXP, the cool corner I call it of the station, 91.1. Why is it that you all have felt the need to sort of assemble events for listeners?
Well, it started out post-pandemic, 2021, where a lot of people are trying to go outside again and find what's going on after we've been stuck inside for so long. So we decided to do this event where it was more so talking about some of the live music aspects of what goes on at these different venues, and it was a lot of rundown of that. But once we started to get in the flow of What Wear Wednesday, I kind of transitioned it into more of a community aspect, because if you listen to WNXP, we talk about these live events or these live shows all the time.
Right. There's an artist who you hear, and they're going to be in town. You're going to hear about it right then.
Yeah, you're going to hear about it right then and there. So it's that opportunity to just use that segment to highlight people in our community that are putting on these events.
Yep.
And so that's why I made that switch over. And I still do talk about the live music aspect of it, because some people like to know about that for traffic purposes especially. So I like to still inform them on that, but it's more so now a way to be more for the community. It's like when you go to a coffee shop and you see a bunch of flyers of things that are happening, I would prefer it to be that. And so that's when we made that switch to that concept.
I love the coffee shop wall of things that are going on. Not outdated, I'm sure, like the coffee shop wall. Like today you featured Virginia Griswold from Buchanan Arts Center, and it made me go look at what they do. I didn't realize they had intro-level wheel throwing, as in pottery making there. Have you signed up for your classes yet?
Look, I don't think you want me to sign up for those classes. I don't know if
I
that
bet Virginia would disagree. She said that's what the class is. It's intro-level wheel throwing.
I know, but that pot would not be usable. The flowers and the soil will be spilling out of the side of it, because I'm just
Sounds very creative. Sounds very creative, Marquis. All right, let's why not just get to the phones? We'll go first because they've been waiting for so long. Jess in Brentwood, you're on This Is Nashville. What kind of event do you have? Go ahead.
Hi there. I'm calling on behalf of Harpeth Conservancy, and we have a wonderful event coming up on the 31st of January. I know it's a little far out, but we really want to get folks signed up. We are hosting, along with the Brentwood Noon Rotary Club and the City of Brentwood, we are having the 20th annual Little Harpeth River Cleanup. So for 20 years, we've had volunteers coming together to basically care for the Little Harpeth River, and that's just an important piece of Brentwood's history, and it's an important river that feeds directly into the Harpeth River downstream.
Jess, does the Little Harpeth run right there through the middle of Brentwood down Franklin Road?
It does.
Okay.
And we're going to be cleaning up about a 10-mile stretch of that river, and this event is family-friendly, beginner-friendly. We're going to have a little breakfast. We'll provide all the supplies and tools. So really anybody can come out and join us for this cleanup. It's going to be a great community event, and we'd love to have anyone join us. If folks want to sign up, all they have to do is head over to our website, harpethconservancy.org, and just come show up and help us celebrate 20 years of showing up and cleaning up this river.
All right, Jess, the Little Harpeth cleanup on January 31st. Marquis has already signed up, so that's it. Let's go next to April in Nashville. You're on This Is Nashville. Go ahead.
Hey, Blake. Hey,
Hello.
listeners. I'm talking to you guys today about an event called Holy Hurt.
All right, Holy Hurts. I almost read Holly Hurts, so I'm glad I didn't read it out loud. Holy Hurt. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Holy Hurt. It's for people who've been hurt by the church, those navigating deconstruction or faith transitions, anyone who's seeking tools or language or community as they process their spiritual wounds. It's also for therapists, pastors, community leaders, anybody who's walking alongside others as they've had they're dealing with the aftermath of these spiritual wounds.
When and where is this?
It's going to be February 20th, and it's happening at Sparrow Day Church.
Sparrow Day, okay. As in DEI, correct? Sparrow Day.
You got it.
Okay.
You got it, yeah. It's going to feature Dr. Hillary McBride. She's a renowned therapist, a researcher, an author who's really known for her groundbreaking work on spiritual trauma, embodiment, and healing. And she's going to be joined by a really interesting person named Joshua Harris. He's a writer and a former megachurch pastor. Some of you might be going, what did he write again? Oh, he wrote I Kissed Dating Goodbye.
Oh, wow.
Which was a purity culture book, but he's spent the past several years publicly reckoning with the harm that's been caused by his past work, and he's exploring what repair can look like. So together, The two of them are creating this event and this open space that's not about answers or resolution. It's really about telling the truth and finding language for what's been carried quietly for so long.
All right, so that's February 20th at Sparrow Dei. April, thanks so much. Holy Hurts, it's called. We'll move on now to Jorge. You are on This Is Nashville. Tell us about your event.
All right. Thanks for having me, Blake. So our gallery is Chauvet Arts, and we just moved to our new location in downtown Nashville.
Say your gallery's name again.
It's called Chauvet Arts.
Chauvet Arts. Great.
Yeah. And so our new exhibition is called Gallery of Impossible Dreams. And it's a 4-room exhibition that brings together painters, sculptors, printmakers, and photographers. And all the work is focused on storytelling and imagination, and really what it means to keep dreaming when the world often feels heavy or cynical. One of our featured installations is by photojournalist Philip Holsinger. In his recent work, you may have seen it, he was documenting the life in El Salvador, and it's appeared in things like Time Magazine, The Guardian, and 60 Minutes. But really, his room, it's to move beyond the headlines and focuses more just on the quiet human moments, like things like the family and dignity and just daily life. But, like Blake, I think that a lot of people are feeling somewhat overwhelmed and rushed right now. And this exhibition is really about just slowing down and paying attention to real stories, to real people, and the idea kind of that empathy still matter.
And runs through the end of the month, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's the end of January.
All right, sounds good.
And we'd love for people to come check it out.
Jorge, thank you so much. Chauvet Arts in Nashville. All right, and our last, we're going to have to keep it tight here, Scott Owings. Scott Owings, about the Moon Requiem. Is that on Friday evening?
Hi, Blake. Yes, it's this Friday evening. My Moon pal, Chris Roberts, and I would love to invite you and your listeners to a Moon Requiem and sound healing experience on Friday at 7 p.m. at Christ United Methodist Church in Franklin.
Well, and so at Christ United Methodist Church in Franklin, January 9th, that is on Friday, the Moon Requiem, which Scott and Chris performed here on one of our Christmas shows right before Christmas. It was a beautiful thing, and I think you might really enjoy that. Marquis, have you signed up for the Moon Requiem event yet?
Look, I'll actually be DJing at Vinyl Tap on Friday. So
competing event.
I know, right? This is what happens to me every single week when I try to go to things. Nashville's always got something going on.
Well, and I think we've seen that today. Thank you so much for folks calling in, sharing their events. And Marquis, thank you for doing What Wear Wednesday and keeping us informed.
Absolutely. Tune in to What Wear Wednesday, both stations, WNXP and WPLN.
All right, and thank you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville as a production of Nashville Public Radio. If you missed Monday's show and need a little inspo for facing 2026, go back and listen in the podcast feed. Buddhist teacher and punk rocker Mikey Noshel of Wild Heart Meditation Center helps us quiet our minds and be in the moment. You can also listen at thisisnashville.org. There's also a little bit of headbanging, so be careful. Today's episode produced by Mary Mancini, directed by Tasha A.F. Limley, Josh Deepens on the phones, board operators Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind that theme music are Larange and Amir Blade. The conversation doesn't have to end here. You can comment, tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message anytime at 615-751-2500 or find us on Instagram. This is Nashville. I'm Blake Farmer. Go in peace.
With the turning of the new year, you are ready to start fresh. How about becoming a new member of Nashville Public Radio? Start this year by starting your support of Nashville Public Radio and WPLN at WPLN.org.
I'm Paige Flager, Nashville Public Radio's senior criminal justice reporter. You tune in for deep dive investigative work that illuminates injustices and failures in the system, only here on WPLN News.
This is 90.3 WPLN.
Nashville Public Radio.
And 91.7 WHRS Cookeville.
Nashville's home for Morning Edition and NPR News.
WPLN.org is where you can find more from WPLN News, including the Nash Villager, your human-powered newsletter and podcast, exploring Nashville news and history. Subscribe to both at WPLN.org.